Most traders move the stop almost randomly. I usually move the stop when the risk has already really been eliminated. In this video, I'll show you how to move the stop to break even in MQL5 using a mathematical rule and how to take partial profits. When you move the stop to break even, it's not a trick, it's risk management written in code. Welcome everyone, I'm Andrea, your automated trader. And if you like what I do, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss upcoming content. There's no trailing here, no magic. There's only one question. When is the trade statistically free? And when it is, I turn it into profit and protection. So this is the usual expert advisor that I've already used in other videos and that I created specifically to explain things on YouTube. The general part of the expert advisor is already explained in previous videos I've uploaded to the channel. So now we're just going to analyze moving the stop to zero and closing the position partially. The first thing I added are these inputs, specifically those for break even. What do they add? First of all, whether I want to use the break even function or not. So if I enable this function, I have a Boolean operator, which I called bBreakeven, set to true. In this case, I've enabled it, so it will be used in my expert advisor. If I leave it set to false, it won't be used, and the stop will never be moved to zero. Then I have a value called bPoint, which I use because I move the stop to zero in relation to my stop loss. What does loss mean? For example, when I have one here, it means that I move the stop to zero when my position is in profit by a certain distance, equal to that of the stop loss. If I set it to 2, it will be when my position is in profit by twice the amount of what the stop loss. So a risk-reward ratio of 1 to 2. If I set it to 0.5, as soon as I have half the stop loss distance in profit, I move the stop to 0. The percentage of the position that I want to close when I move the stop to 0. So in this case, I set it to 30%. So to make it short, we start, our position moves toward the target, and we reach a distance from our entry point equal to the stop loss. Because here we have one, we close 30% of the position and move the stop to 0. The remaining 70%, of course, will be closed when the position reaches the target. Let's take a detailed look at this part, this section of code, the one you found in the other experts. And here's the part about moving the stop to 0, so the break even, which is this entire initial section of code that I put directly inside on tick. You see, it's quite long and goes all the way to here. This is the function for our break even. Then, if you need to code a more efficient expert, you can move part of this outside. You can create an external function and call it to reduce the number of lines of code a bit, but for teaching purposes, I prefer to do everything inside the code without using external functions because it's easier for someone just starting out to understand what we're doing. I put the function directly in on tick and not at the formation of a new bar. Because it's important that the stop is moved to break even. The position closure exactly on the tick where I have the conditions, I can't do it. A minute later, 15 minutes later. If I use 1 minute bars, that's 15 minutes. I need to be precise, so this is a function I have to run on every tick so that it checks on every tick. As soon as there's a tick that meets the conditions, I move the stop and do the partial close. How does this whole part work? Now I'll explain it to you in detail. The first if, obviously, is if VE. This identifies the fact that if VE is true, so the function is active, I execute all the code inside this if. If it's not active, obviously it doesn't execute it, and so the program doesn't use the stop to 0. What do I do next? I run a for loop through all the positions I have open in MetaTrader, and what do I need to do? I select the position with the index I, which is the one from the for loop, where the symbol is equal to the symbol I'm using on the chart, obviously. And the magic is equal to the magic number of my expert advisor, because this way I only select the positions that my expert has opened on this symbol. So what exactly is the next step that I need to take in this process? Well, I carefully read through the specific ticket associated with the position, which is the essential document that allows me to gather and understand all of the comprehensive information and vital details I could possibly need regarding this particular job opening. I go straight to the end of the code. Once I have selected the position, I take the bid and ask because I will need them later. So I go ahead and do that. These aren't data from the position itself, but I need to save them in two variables related to the position. I read the opening price, which I will need later to move the stop to this price, and the lots I have opened. For this position as a whole, the stop loss and the target. In this next line, I read the type of position, so I need to save it. In this pos type, which is a variable of this type, enum position type, basically whether it's a buy or a sell. Then I split the code into two parts, because depending on whether I have a buy or a sell, I need to do slightly different things. So I consider the case for the position is of type buy, and I do this with this if statement. In the next line, there's another if, which checks if the price is greater than the opening of the position plus the position price minus the stop. Loss times the break-even factor. That I had chosen, this identifies the thing I explained to you earlier. So here, if I have 1, it means that this becomes the price. It must be greater than the opening plus the stop loss once. When this is true, it means I'm at the point where I need to move the stop to 0 and partially close. What do I save? First, I save the stop loss, which becomes the opening price of the position because I want to set it to 0. So the stop loss must be the opening price. I normalize it to make sure I don't have any issues. And I create another if statement. This if is extremely important because this whole section is executed here, which is where I modify the stop and go to close the position. But only if the new stop loss I've calculated is different from the position stop loss. What does this mean? The first time I get here, I'll have a new stop loss. This SL, which is equal to the opening price of the position, and the old stop loss of the position, which was the initial stop loss. So the two values are different. The second time, once I've moved the stop to 0, partially closed, I'll come in here and these two values, the current stop loss, let's say, the new stop loss, which is the opening price of the position, will be the same. So I won't execute all this code because this condition isn't met. This is what allows you to do it only once. Otherwise, every time with every tick, you would keep moving the stop to 0 and partially closing the position again. N times for every tick. And that's not right. It's not correct, is it? Because we need to do it only once when the conditions are met. So what do I do in this if statement? I immediately modify the stop loss. So with this command, trade position, modify position ticket, so the selection, always with the ticket, I go and set the stop. Loss, and well, in this case, I also set the target, right? Which obviously stays the same. If you want to modify the targets as well, you can also change this variable. I only included it to show that it's possible to modify the target as well. But in this expert, we don't do that. After that, I have this whole section of code, which is the one used to partially close the position. First of all, what do? I read the step to know what the lot step is. So for example, if I'm trading euro dollar, there's a step of 0.01 and the minimum lot, which is the smallest amount I can trade. These are two very important values because they allow you to perform a safety check on the closure, which I'll explain to you in these 3 lines here. Here, I calculate the percentage I want to close. How do I do that? I've saved the lots of my position, so I calculate the lots to close as the current lots multiplied by the percentage I want to close, which I provided as input. So in our case, it was 30%. So this perch close will be 3. Divided by 100, that's 30%. And here I've calculated the portion of my position to close. So for example, if I had opened one lot and I need to close 30%, that means 0.30. Here, I need to align with the correct steps, because if I get a value to close like 0.33333, I need to know that I can close 0.33. Otherwise, it will give me an error. And this does exactly that for me. Based on the step I have, I calculate the lot size to close. Or if I have a step of 1, because maybe I'm trading a CFD where lots move in steps of 1, I can close 1 lot, 2 lots, 3 lots. I can't close 0.5, so 0.5. It will be rounded and become 1 lot. Or 0.8. It will be rounded and I won't close anything because it's less than 0.5. These 3 lines are very important because they ensure that you don't close the entire position to 0. Why is that? Let's take an example. If I'm trading on Euro USD and I have a position of 0.01, I can't close less than 0.01 because that's the minimum lot size. And so in this case, I can't close anything because the position is already the smallest possible and I can't close more than that, nothing. I have to leave it as it is and carry it through to my target. Even in the case, I don't know, of 0.03. If you want to close 30%, that's 0.01, you can close it because it's a value that it meets the minimum lot size requirements. So what are we saying in this if statement? That the lots to be closed must be greater than the minimum lot size, as I told you, and the lot to be closed must be less than the position's lot size. What? So I can't close the entire position in one go. This is what prevents you from closing a 0.01, for example. What do I do? Here, right here, do I have the partial close? I use this command, which is MQL5 trade position close partial command. What do I need to pass to this function? The ticket to know which position I want to partially close and the lots I want to close. So the lot to close, the ones we calculated earlier, here is the sell part. I won't explain it to you now, but it's exactly the opposite of what we did. For the buy, it's perfectly symmetrical. So we just expect that obviously the signs are reversed, but the logic is always exactly the same. Have you finished your function? Let's put it this way. Even if it's written inside the ontick, where I go to make this change to the stop in the partial close, scrolling down, we still have the code we wrote the other times. So this is the usual expert we've used for all our educational tests on YouTube. I'll show you the part of the code once again, so maybe you can use it to copy. Do you see, is everything here? The code, I'll go slowly, up to here. Here's the part related to the sell and here. We close all our brackets. So we're done. Now let's run the expert and see if we've coded it correctly. Let's do a test to see if we made any mistakes in the logic. So we're in MetaTrader, we've loaded the expert. YouTube test, let's select Eurodollar, leave HLC, since here we just need to see. If the expert works correctly, the position is closed. These are the input data. For this example in the break even, obviously I have to set it to true, otherwise it will not work. I set it so that at 0.5 of the stop loss, I move the stop to 0 and partially close 30. Let's run a visual test. So we check the visual mode here, click start, and let's see what happens. It's very fast, so let's stop it and check. As you can see, for example, in this case, the position went as planned. It closed out 0.3 for me. I had set one lot for all trades, just to keep the numbers simple. And as you can see, it closed the 0.3 immediately when we went to break even, and the remaining 0.7 afterwards. And when we closed the 0.3, we also moved the stop to 0. This happened here as well, and here too, so our expert is doing exactly what we asked it to do. It partially closes the position for us and moves the stop to 0. Let's see if we can directly watch a trade where all of this happens. Here it is. You can see that the position moved in the right direction, the stop has already been moved to 0, and part of the position has been closed. In fact, if we look at the trade, it's now only for 0.7, not for one lot as it was at the beginning. Let's move forward and see what happens. And the other trade is closed exactly at 0. So we closed 1.03 here, and 0.7 was closed at 0, because here the stop had been moved. Now, after this video, you know how to turn a risky trade into an almost free trade, where you only use a portion of the initial risk you had allocated to this trade. This is the correct way to manage a position. First, you eliminate the risk, and then you let the statistics do the work. In the next video, I'll show you how to create a trailing stop. In the next video, I'll show you how to create a trailing stop in MQL5. This is where the logic ends. The rest is all about discipline.